I've been playing Bootstrap Island on and off since 2024, and even now, while playing the PSVR2 version, I'm still finding new places and things that genuinely surprise me. And we can all see how stunning this game is, but the thing I think Bootstrap Island gets right isn't the graphics, it's how simple survival can be. Because in most VR survival games, making a fire, for example, feels like a real chore. In some games you need 2 small sticks, 2 medium pieces of wood, 1 large piece of wood, and then some kindling. But in Bootstrap Island, you just need wood, any wood, and then some kindling. And weirdly, I think that simplicity of survival is what makes this game even more immersive and, dare I say it, more realistic. Being immersive is probably the biggest strength Bootstrap Island has, because you're not spending your time thinking about crafting recipes. You're thinking about where you're going next and trying not to get lost, about what you're going to find and how you're going to survive the next night, and what might be coming around the corner. And that's why Bootstrap Island on PSVR is one of my favourite VR games. And I'm pleased to say it's actually changed quite a bit since I first played it. One of the biggest changes is that when you die, your unlocks no longer reset. So in other words, you're always making progress. So in today's video, I'm going to be going over everything you need to know before you pull the trigger on Bootstrap Island on PSVR2, and if the developer has made any use of PSVR2's features, and then we can talk about the graphics and compare the PSVR2 version to PC, because some of you might already own a PC and be thinking you just want the plug and play of PSVR2. Now, Bootstrap Island is made up of 5 chapters, and they're all pretty different, with a few interesting changes and challenges that I don't think anyone will expect. There's no map, so instead you have to use real points of interest and your memory to navigate this absolutely stunning but lethal island. Plus there's a colossal volcano that explodes every morning, marking the start of a new day. First few times this happens, you can't help but go out of your way just to see it erupt. This event is made even more awesome by using PSVR2's headset rumble, so you actually feel like the island is rumbling beneath you. The narrator is absolutely amazing, making it feel like your adventure is some sort of storybook being read to someone else, and the music is brilliant, as it can be very uplifting, adding a sense of wonder while you're exploring, but the music can also suddenly change to add pressure when you're trying to survive the night. In fact, Bootstrap Island has quite a few unforgettable moments, but the first one everyone has is making it through their first night, which involves making a fire, and failure to do this is basically guaranteed death. Each night you'll be visited by different predators, and as the days go on they get a little bit more confident, which will see you fighting them off with fire. And I've got to say, this is one of the most fantastic moments I ever had in VR. It's terrifying but also beautiful, as the game transitions from evening to absolute pitch black and then to a moonlit night. And I have to add, on PSVR2 the OLED panels really do shine here. As you explore and die, you'll find and unlock new weapons, holdalls, pouches, bags, and a crafting book, and much more. So death is annoying, but it also has its perks. But the real challenge of Bootstrap Island comes from not knowing, and I don't want to spoil that for this review, but there is a boss and there's plenty of cool things to experience that really can only be experienced in VR. Bootstrap has some of the best physical interactions I've ever had in any VR game. Things can get clunky sometimes, but I like how immersive everything feels. And there's some special moments you can have too, like when you hold your hands up to the sun and you can see the red glow of the sun through your skin. Drinking water by cupping your hand, or simply putting your whole head in a bowl of water, I think is really cool. And then pulling apart your first coconut is simply incredible, because it just feels extremely real. Plus, there's a moment in this game where you will experience the heaviest rainfall you have ever seen in any game ever. I know survival games are not for everyone, because in VR they can be pretty complicated, and the roguelike element of this game is something that people will want to avoid. But Bootstrap Island, I think, is the exception. At least it is for me, because as I said, it now has permanent unlocks, and staying alive is actually pretty simple. All you need to do is stay hydrated, eat things like oysters or cooked crab, and exotic fruit, and then survive the night. So in terms of PSVR2 features, I've already spoken about the headset rumble, which I think is used a lot, but very subtly. And the adaptive triggers are also put to good use when using the weapons. The developer has told me Bootstrap Island has eye-track coding rendering, but I'm not really sure how that is being used, because to me this game looks reprojected and the performance is a bit all over the place. And in terms of colour, it can go from looking really good to sometimes looking a little bit washed out. The performance is good 90% of the time, but there is frame drops, especially when the game is saving, and in terms of graphics, it's both impressive and equally unimpressive. As you explore the island, you'll definitely see some pop-in, but you'll also see the geometry of the island actually transform right in front of you. When you enter some wide open spaces, you'll often see items suddenly appear out of thin air, and this isn't that bad, but what I have experienced is a lot more bugs and mistakes than I'm used to seeing in Bootstrap Island on PC. I've seen animals spawn in the sky and items in my hands phase through solid objects, making me think this surely cannot be the final release or build of Bootstrap Island for PSVR2. I also need to report that climbing down vines actually killed me, and I could not find a way to stop it happening. And obviously something like that is pretty game breaking, because if you climb 3 or 4 of these in a row, it will be game over. Now I hope this stuff is just early access for reviewers, but I have to report it to you just in case it isn't. In comparison to PC, I would say Bootstrap Island is visually on medium settings. A lot of the fancy effects we're used to seeing on PC aren't here, but the core of the game and what matters is here. So you will no doubt still have a superb survival experience, but if you have a pretty capable PC, definitely go with the PC version. I was kind of hoping this was going to be another No Man's Sky situation, where the PSVR2 version is actually better than what I've ever experienced on PC, but unfortunately, with Bootstrap Island, that simply isn't the situation. Now when it comes to whether you should buy it or not, this is pretty tough, because there's definitely some issues going on, but even then, I can't help but still think of Bootstrap Island as the best VR survival game ever made. I've lost plenty of hours in this over the last couple of days, so I do give it a buy recommendation, but only if the issues that I've faced are fixed. Because outside of that, it's a fantastic game, and I'm super happy it's come to PSVR2. But I do hope the issues I faced and the bugs I experienced are fixed for the launch. Well, that's all I've got for you today. Thank you to anyone who watches and likes and subscribes, and I'll see you on the next one.